please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Hello and welcome to Business Saturday. You are watching CNBC Tv18 and in the Mumbai News Center, I am Anisha Jain. The big story that we are tracking today: in a bid to end SGX Nifty to trade in Singapore and Sensex futures trading in Dubai, Indian exchanges have come together and issued a press release. Now, henceforth, they will not provide data on Indian indices to foreign exchanges. We caught up with the MD and CEO of NSE, Mr. Vikram Lamai, and here is what he had to say on this development.
There has been a concern about liquidity moving to offshore jurisdictions, which is obviously not good for Indian markets. And therefore, I'd said this, I don't know when it was, maybe it was 10 days ago, to offshore jurisdictions, which is obviously not good for Indian markets. And therefore, I'd said this, I don't know when it was, maybe it was 10 days ago, that there are various options that are being considered to see how we can consolidate liquidity in India. So if you look at what we have outlined is a series of things that will try and consolidate liquidity in Indian markets rather than fragmenting liquidity. Broadly, it has two components if you look at it. One is about licensing of indices that may be used for trading and settlement of offshore derivative contracts. So that would include our license with Singapore for the Nifty. That's one set of restrictions in terms of what exchanges are able to do. So therefore, we will have to terminate our license with SGX for the Nifty. What we don't want is other types of offshore derivative contracts, and that would also include the likes of single stock futures that was announced by Singapore, where the prices are obviously of Indian securities, and those prices are being obtained from Indian exchanges, but could be from multiple sources. So exchanges could give data to other data vendors who might provide it to exchanges, etc., etc. But whichever source is getting data from the exchange, what we are saying is that that data cannot be used for trading or settlement of any offshore derivative contract.
Okay, so that's the view coming in from NSE, but let's now go across to Anuj Singhal to help us assess the market impact of this move. Anuj, thank you for joining us. Tell us, do you think the market will shrug off this particular move or will react on Monday to that?
There's no market impact as such. I mean, if, the worry is that it would be seen as a retrograde step, which some people would argue it is. But, will the market react? Have a sort of gap down on Monday morning? Perhaps not. Market has other important things on the back of its mind. What's happening with global cues, for example. In that context, actually, last week was good for Indian market because a lot of mid-caps did recover. Purely on this point, this is, a lot of market participants are saying that this is a bit of a knee-jerk from NSE because what they don't want is for single stock futures, a market to pick up in terms of volumes on the SGX. The key point here is that NSE's volumes are not down. NSE's volumes, in fact, for last 1 year have been the highest ever. And they have introduced new products like weekly options expiry, and we are seeing the kind of volumes that they are generating. So the volume shift to SGX is not at the expense of NSE. And in that sense, a lot of people are surprised that NSE had to take this step. But this does not have too much of a market impact. What it could be is it could be a brief precursor to NSE extending the market timing for only the Nifty futures and the Sensex futures, the NSE and BSE, that is. That could happen, that the index futures could trade longer hours in India as well. But as far as market impact is concerned, it does not have too much of a market impact.
Okay, thank you, Anuj, for joining us with that update. But don't think the move is retrograde. That's the word coming in from SEBI chief, Mr. Ajay Tyagi, when asked about the exchange's move. Take a listen.
These are the exchanges who have taken this decision, and they have taken this, they've come out with this joint communique in terms of, I think, in terms of the business interest. And what they are saying, as I read it, is that they want that liquidity on those indices in India should not be actually split, and it doesn't shift abroad. So these are commercial decisions which they are taking. I don't think so it is retrograde, but they are trying to ensure that liquidity in those indices stay in the country. So I don't really say it is retrograde.
Okay, let's now shift focus to the trading action. Well, Friday marked yet another weekday of trade for the Wall Street, marking an end to the worst week since August last year. The Nifty managed to end above 10,400 and the Sensex too closed above the 34,000 mark. The Bank Nifty, however, saw deep cuts of over 450 points on Friday, while the mid-caps were the star of yesterday's session as index recovered more than 450 points to end in the green. While for the week, the global cues actually dragged the markets lower. Nifty and Sensex are down about 3% each for the week. Well, on to the action in the global markets then. Wall Street rebounded with the key indices ending with gains of close to 1.5%. The Dow rebounded more than 300 points, sparing deep losses that we saw earlier in the day. The S&P 500 also rallied 1.5%, while the Nasdaq added 1.4% at close. In other important news, President Donald Trump signed a massive spending deal into law after both chambers of Congress approved the bill. And in Europe, the stocks closed lower on Friday as investors monitored global concerns about soaring volatility and rising borrowing costs. The major markets ended with cuts of over 1% each. Well, the other cue for Monday morning will be earnings post-market hours yesterday. The worsening asset quality continues to remain a headache for State Bank of India and Bank of Baroda in third quarter earnings. Now, for SBI, the country's largest lender, reported a quarterly loss for the first time, for the first time in at least 17 years. That's not all. SBI also reported a more than 23,000 crore rupee divergence in gross bad loans for FY17. Lata Venkatesh is here to decode those numbers for us. Lata, what are the key takeaways for these earnings and how do you see the stocks reacting on Monday?
Well, it's actually an all-round shocker for State Bank of India. It's reported a loss. That itself is a big shock, 2,400 crore. The slippages, that is the fresh bad loans, defaulters that you have created, is 25,000 crores. Now, last quarter was 10,000 crore. The quarter before it was 30,000 crores. We were told that all the bad news from all the subsidiaries is in and that's why it's 30,000 crores. Then why 25,000 crores now? So the total gross NPA, gross bad loans, has jumped by 7% quarter on quarter. And the other bad news is that, every year the regulator RBI oversees, supervises the books. And what they have found is that last year, according to RBI, 25,000 crore more of NPAs should have been declared, or rather 23,000 crores. So just all around bad news. Is this beaten by growth at least? No. Actually, the loan book has declined quarter on quarter. They've given fewer loans. So State Bank chairman tells us that all the bad news is out and we start a brave new year from FY19. That's the only positive from the results. In Bank of Baroda, it's not all-round bad, so I'll begin with the good news. It's a 40% growth in net interest income. Very good. Though, of course, it's not only because of loan growth. There have been other factors. Margins also are up. So the bank is making more money on every loan it gives, 2.7% versus 2.3% a year ago. The cost-to-income ratio is down, which means the amount of money they spend to create 100 rupee is come down to 39. It used to be 44 1 quarter ago. That's a very good management of expenses. But the bad news is, again, the loans that have slipped into bad category have risen to 5,600 crores. And last quarter, it was only 3,400 crores. So if you thought things were peaking off, they are not. Bad news continues on the asset quality front for both banks.
Okay, so asset quality worsens for both the banks, but the steel major Tata Steel also reported earnings post-close. The profit there grew 5 times to 1,136 crores, driven by strong Indian operational performance. The consolidated revenue as well during the quarter grew by around 20.8%. Well, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley yesterday said that the government will take into account the actual input cost plus the unpaid value of family labour while fixing the support price of crops at 50% higher than the cost of production. Now remember, he had announced earlier in the budget that the government will fix the minimum support price or the MSP of Kharif 2019 crops at least 1.5 times than the cost of production. The opposition and farm experts had demanded the government to spell out that formula to be adopted to determine the cost of production. Replying to a debate on Union Budget 2018-19 in Rajya Sabha, Jaitley said that the government will take the A2 plus FL formula, which is covering actual paid out cost plus imputed value of family labour, to determine the cost of production of agri crops and accordingly fix the MSP.
एमएसपी किसान को मिले और उसका जो आधार आज तक एक बना सरकारों का कि उसकी जो इनपुट कॉस्ट है, उसके जो परिश्रम की कॉस्ट है, उसकी जो लेबर की कॉस्ट है, वो सारी ऐड हो उस A2+FL और फिर उसको 50% और मिले। एक बार ये परंपरा हम लोग बना लेंगे तो आरंभ में कई बार लगता है कि इसका इन्फ्लेशनरी इफेक्ट क्या होगा, इसका क्या फर्क पड़ेगा। जब राइट टू फूड लाए थे तो यही सारे प्रश्न उठते थे। आज 1,70,000 करोड़ अब्जॉर्ब करने की बजट की क्षमता बन चुकी है और इसलिए एक बार किसान को उसका हक मिलने लग पड़ेगा। तो विभिन्न क्रॉप्स के लिए जब ये परंपरा बनेगी तो मुझे लगता है कोई भी सरकारें आने वाले भविष्य में हो, ये एक नियम सा बन जाएगा कि किसान को इस सारे का एक बेंचमार्क बन जाएगा और आने वाला एक नया इतिहास किसान के लिए हम लोग लिख देंगे।
Okay, and Budget 2018 was majorly focused on agriculture, rural sector and food processing industry. Ronojoy Banerjee caught up with some of the top players of the packaged food industry. He asked them about the additional budgetary allocation to food processing, demand revival in rural areas and the import duty hike on certain food items. Here's a slice of that conversation.
Anything that we do in agriculture, be it in pricing, be it in inputs, be it in upstream, will certainly benefit not only the agrarian sector, but will also benefit the food processing sector. So I see this as and also incidentally, the food processing investments have been doubled from 700 odd crores to about 1,400 crores. So clearly the steps are being taken in order to mitigate the situation in the agrarian economy. This seen together with an increased focus on some aspects of food processing, whether it is Project Green or whether it is increased investments, MSPs, etc. All this is definitely going to help the industry. Now the question is, these things are not a one-year finite horizon. Right. These would evolve over a period of time. So one hopes that this transcends into a longer, more stable set of practices that can actually benefit the agrarian economy and indeed the larger food processing industry.
Make in India is important for India, for our economy, for our people, and anything that supports Make in India, we are all for it. Specifically to the increase in import duty for juice, which comes in the form of a concentrate. I think the increase in duty will end because all these fruits are grown in India. There are oranges, there are apple, there is pineapple, which is grown. We need to. This will allow to support and in fact we will start using not from concentrate juice, which is way better than using the concentrated juice, which typically gets imported. We are moving our entire portfolio from to not from concentrate juices, which will come in from the local farmer. It requires a lot of work because there is a technology adapting to the Indian produce, but I think that has to be done, and I think it's a great initiative.
I think enough is never enough, but I think it's in the right direction.
Indian produce, but I think that has to be done, and I think it's a great initiative.
I think enough is never enough, but I think it's in the right direction. 700 to 1,400 crores is a big jump. I think that will help. I think the government is making the right moves to ensure that the food processing industry, which touches pretty much the agrarian industry in a big way and farmer income in a big way, it is going to help.
Moving on then, as Indian Railways Finance Corporation gets ready for its Dalal Street debut, CNBC TV18 caught up with the company's managing director, Mr. S.K. Patnaik, and he exclusively tells us that IRFC is ready to get listed as the Corporate Affairs Ministry has resolved the tax issue which was earlier delaying the process.
Since the MCA notification is out, we are very much optimistic that listing can be done at any time. We are ready at least with DRHP. But then the final say on going for a listing, the date of listing will be decided in consultation with the DIPAM, Ministry of Finance. So if it happens before 31st March, it's well and good. It depends a lot on the market condition. If it doesn't happen, suppose say 31st March, just follow it up in the month of April or May.
Okay, so just wanted to understand what will be the offloading target here? I mean, are you looking at 10%, 20%, if you could help out?
Yeah, this has already been decided. The government is going to offload 5% and we are going to raise an additional equity of 10%. So put together is 15% when we'll be going for the IPO.
And in good news for shopaholics, global retail giant IKEA is all set to roll out its first store in India later this year. In the run-up to the much-awaited launch later this year, CNBC Tv18's Priya Sheth visited IKEA's first distribution center in India to check out the supply chain and logistics process. Here's a report with the details on the same.
We're at Swedish home furnishing major IKEA's first and only distribution center here at Pune. This distribution center is spread across 3 lakh square foot and houses close to 2,000 SKUs. Let's go check it out.
We are also on the final stages of adapting a new property, or creating a new property which is about another 3 lakh square feet. So that will give us a total footprint of 6 lakh square feet in Pune. And then that will help us to serve Hyderabad and Navi Mumbai, and then also start the process for the multi-channel retailing. And then as we grow into the other cities, we are looking at our expansion as well across the country.
So in terms of investment, what would be the kind of money that IKEA has invested in putting up these distribution centers in India?
Yeah, so currently today we are invested already about 20 crore into the this site or this facility that you see. We will be somewhere close to around about 100 crore in the new facility.
Talk to us about the SKUs here at this warehouse. So far, how many do you have here?
Yeah, so here in this facility we have close to 2,000 SKUs. In IKEA in India we plan to sell eventually around 9,000 different products.
This distribution center houses close to 100 employees, with 49% of the employees being women. The company plans to double the number of employees over the next 1 year. In Chakan, Priya Sheth.
Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be reaching Palestine today as part of his 3-nation tour. The Prime Minister is expected to reach the capital city Ramallah at 1:30 p.m. where he will be received by Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. The two leaders will lay a wreath on late President Yasser Arafat. He will be the first Indian Prime Minister to visit Palestine. PM Modi will also be visiting the UAE and Oman as part of his tour. 2 people killed after terrorists attacked the 36th Brigade Army camp in Jammu Sanjwan area. Massive search operations are underway to neutralize the terrorists who are holed up in the army camp. Now, according to reports, 3 to 4 terrorists barged into the JCO family quarters through a sewer. The incident took place around 4:30 a.m. and 2 Jawans have been injured, and a Jawan's daughter is also injured in the attack. Afzal Brigade of the Jaish-e-Mohammed are responsible for the attacks, according to reports. And as we wrap up the show, a quick programming reminder: the 2018 Winter Olympics in South Korea is underway.